We've got Massimo Parlermo here with us now. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. And how are you doing?
Yes, I'm doing fantastic also. Not really much to complain about.
That's good.
Yes. Now, your latest book that you've got out at the moment is called Desire for Love. So, can you just describe the basic plots of that book for us, first of all, for people that might not know about it?
Sure, no problem. It's about a book about it's about the main character is named Gianni Martino. It
Hmm.
takes place over 4 decades of his life, starting from his early teens, and he comes across this sudden transformation physically,
Yeah.
and also how people began to treat him differently. And he had to overcome his shyness and adapt to his transformation and begin building his confidence to approach and ask a girl out on a date.
Mm.
As the story progresses, and as does the character, and becomes more confident, he begins to overcome his obstacles of being shy. As he got older, his goal was to settle down with one woman, get married, and have a family.
Yeah.
However, through the book, he falls into this bachelor lifestyle, leading this life that he did not want. And he tries to pull himself together and try to get back to that original goal of having to settle down.
Yeah. And how did you first get the idea to write this book? What was the inspiration?
The inspiration, I would say, was all through my life as a bachelor. I had men would tell me, "You are so lucky, you're not married, you
Yeah.
can date all kinds of, different kinds of women." And women would always say, "Why haven't you been married? How
Mm.
come you're still single? You're such a good catch." And so I wrote this book to kind of explain as to, what led to someone leading a bachelor lifestyle, and not
Yeah.
necessarily by choice, but it just happened to happen. And
Mm.
so I wrote the book to try to kind of give the viewpoint of a bachelor as to why he has this trouble of staying as a bachelor. And so, people who are bachelors tend to, end up getting a stigma
Yeah.
as to, they can't commit, or they're players and whatnot. So I try to write the book to try to explain it's not necessarily what everyone thinks it is.
Yeah. And I guess it's great to explain things from that viewpoint because
Right.
I suppose people might think that bachelors are somehow a little bit different. I suppose it's like spinster, you're going to be a
Right.
maid forever and stuff like that.
Right.
It's like old
Right.
fashioned.
Yeah, that's stigma. Right.
Yeah. So how long did the book take you to write?
So last summer, during the COVID-19 lockdowns, I
Mm.
sat down and I began writing. It took me a few months to write it. I
Yeah.
really had it written in my mind for a lot of years. I just finally basically sat down and took some time and actually wrote it down. So I had the idea in my mind for a long time. So it didn't take me too long to write it.
Yeah, and I guess having an idea is just really helpful. Do you feel that when you're writing the book, you know where it's going to end up, or does it develop along the way?
That's a great question. And actually, I struggled with the end
Yeah.
because I did base the book on my own experiences. So the very end of the book was the most difficult for me. But once I figured out how I wanted to end the book, I tried to match up. So the ending of the book would definitely be what someone would never expect the ending the way it ended.
Yeah.
But it's also very fitting for the character and the way the book was written, because so many crazy things happened in this guy's life
Mm.
that the final ending that I made the book, or for Desire for Love, definitely is very fitting. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a great question. That's how I came up with it. It's just as I was writing it halfway through, then I figured out how I was going to write the ending.
Yeah, absolutely. So when did you first realize that you wanted to be a writer in the first place?
Well, I think that goes back to when I was in high school as a senior.
Mm.
I was a C average student, right? I wasn't one of those kids that wanted to get straight A's and whatnot, and I just did enough to get by. I was good in a couple of classes like history, but English was not my forte. So anyway, we were given a project in English, and we were given the project of writing a paper. So I wrote the paper, handed it in, figuring, here we go, I'm going to get another C, right?
Yeah.
So I got the paper back. The teacher was handing back the papers, and as the teacher was handing me back my paper, he made the comment, "Congratulations, I don't normally give up high marks for such a project."
Wow.
And I look, and there was an A. So then I
Oh.
started thinking to myself, hey, maybe I have more, there's more to my writing skills than I was giving myself credit for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess something like that happens when you're really young, it
Right.
just gives you a lot of confidence that,
Exactly.
young people probably disproportionately lack confidence.
Right. Right. Exactly. And yeah, that definitely was I guess you could say, a launching pad for my confidence in my writing skills.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you write a book, how do you go about researching your information? Is it a combination of your experiences and research, perhaps?
In this case, the couple books I've written so far has really been mainly my experiences at this point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if I was to write another book, a different type of book, like a historical book, then I would definitely do more research. But in this case, it's a fictional tale, and I based it on my own experiences, and I kind of took that and kind of wrote it up.
But do you find that even though it's based on your experience, you might at some point have to do a tiny bit of research?
Oh, sure. Sure. I mean, I did do a little bit of research as far as like, I quote a lot of music songs in my books. So I had to do a lot of research about who wrote it, what year, and stuff like that. So I did do some research as far as that goes, that perspective of the book. And other things. I looked up other stuff like, just as references, just to kind of like help me build the book or the story.
Yeah, absolutely. And what do you do when you're not writing? Do you have fun things that take up all your time?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I like to hang out with my family and friends. I like to play golf. I like to travel. And then, I also like to dine out with friends and family. And lately, I've been sharpening my cooking skills. My non-Italian friends have always said that, hey, your mother's from the old country. You probably got a lot of delicious meals from her cooking. And absolutely, my mom is a good cook. And though I would never try to compare my cooking to her cooking, I would definitely say I can never cook as well as what she cooked, her dishes. But I can definitely say my own cooking and my own dishes are, my own thing. And I would never want to compare my cooking.
Yeah. And has the lockdown helped with the home cooking thing, I suppose? Because a lot of people have been getting into that.
Yeah, actually it has. I found myself cooking up dishes that I was normally order like a restaurant. Like I never cooked chicken Vesuvio before, and I decided to learn how to do it, and I did it. It was fantastic. So, yeah, definitely, most definitely.
And is it as easy as it looks, just following a recipe, or does it still take a little bit of skill to do it right, even though there's instructions?
Everyone could follow the recipes as you said, but at the end of the day, you got to come up with your own touch and technique. And, you know what I mean? Like just certain amount of spices you can use, or certain, you kind of change up things. You might want to add this or remove that. You know what I mean? So you can, it's easy to cook. Cooking is not hard. It's just a matter of finding your recipe, how you want it to taste.
Yeah, and everybody needs their family recipe, and I think particularly that's quite an Italian thing, isn't it?
Yes, and they don't have anything written down, so you just kind of learn and figure it out on your own.
Yeah. So if you had the chance to change the world, what would be the first thing you'd do?
Well, I would say that's a great question, and I think one thing I think we could change, or at least help out in the change, is help out with the homeless and hungry population. I think that would be great to get less people hungry and more people with the homes. I think that would definitely change the world, at least in a good way, right?
Yeah. Apart from there'd be a few people complaining about it, but really I think there is actually enough food in the world. It's just that for some reason we're not giving it to people.
We're not getting it out to who needs it. Exactly.
And I guess homelessness as well is something that we just seem to have accepted now. You just expect to see somebody sitting on the floor with a cup.
Yeah, right. And I just, for me, it's just like, come on, we could do something. As a society, I mean, how many thousands of years have we lived? And it's just like, we still got people homeless. I mean, we got to do something, I think that's the one thing that people could see for themselves, right? the homeless, the hungry. The other stuff that you could change the world, you don't see as much, but I think that's the one where you could actually see it for yourself.
Yeah, I don't really understand why they can't just guarantee everyone somewhere to sleep at night, even if it's the most basic place. It's better than being on the street.
Exactly. I agree.
Yeah. And in your life, do you have ways that you lead a peaceful life and methods, I suppose?
Sure. Actually, I think the biggest one, or the biggest method I use is I live by the golden rule of treat others the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
I think that's so important. I think when people do that, if you treat others the way you want to be treated, I think we go a lot further along as far as for a peaceful life. And another rule I like to live by is to be honest with people, and not just with people, but with yourself as well. Right. And try not to hurt anyone with your honesty. Some people are brutally honest and hurt people, and I think you could be honest without actually hurting someone.
Yeah. And I suppose honesty is something that, it sounds easy, but a lot of people need to learn it, because we probably tell hundreds of lies a day that are so small that we don't really think about it.
Right. And they always say that, life is crazy like that, because people always say I want the truth, but they really don't want to hear the truth, right?
Yeah.
So and that's part of the other problem is honesty is great, but at the same time a lot of people don't want to hear it and can't handle it.
Yeah. And I suppose if you lie, you're just going to dig yourself into a bigger hole if it's something serious you're lying about.
Right. That's why I say be honest, not just to people, but to yourself as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I suppose sometimes in criminal dramas, there are people that are innocent that still lie for some reason, and then they just end up making themselves look guilty, and it completely messes them up and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's just if you had just told the truth to start with, you wouldn't be in distress to begin with.
Yeah. And this is a bit of a deep question, really, but how would you define life itself exactly?
That's a great question. I think I would define it as, I would say life is like a big novel, chapter after chapter of your life until the final chapter is written. Right. Yeah. And then in between the chapters, one can make life any way they want it to be. Yeah. And what I mean by that is you could either choose to live life with the outlook that the glass is half full or half empty. I personally try to live my life with the glass as half full and prefer to be optimistic and have a positive outlook in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's always the best way to always be hopeful.
Right. Optimistic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Although apparently the secret to happiness is to lower your expectations, which is kind of a bit of a contradiction, I always feel.
Well, if you lower the expectations, you won't set yourself up for what do you call it?
Disappointment.
So if you don't, putting something up too high where you can't reach the goal, that makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, it doesn't mean you can't look at things as being half full. Yeah.
And just quickly, what would you say are the things that are most dear to you in your life?
Oh, sure. I would definitely say my family and friends are most dear to my life. Yeah. Without a doubt. I think that's what makes a person is their family and friends. Yeah. And then I would say my laptop is also pretty dear to me. That's where I do my writing and my communication. And my last thing that I would say is dear to me is my Movado watch. And the reason it's dear to me is it's more of a symbolic reminder of that point in my life where I had a very successful year financially with work and investments. And I bought the watch to symbolize and remind myself that I am capable of success.
Yeah, for sure. Well, lastly, just before we go, what message would you want to give out to the readers of your new book, Desire for Love?
I would tell my readers that, you should enjoy what life has to offer. Don't sweat the small stuff. Yeah. Try to live with an optimistic viewpoint. And when one can do that, they can lead a good life for themselves.
Absolutely. Well, where are we able to check out your book if we'd like to have a little flick through the pages?
Sure. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it on Barnes & Noble and Apple iTunes and Google Play. And there's many other smaller places, but those are the main ones that someone can check it out.
Great. Well, thank you very much for joining us on the show this afternoon. It's been great having you here.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.